This week on the Eurostep,
Our ESPN trash,
Darius Bazley's amazing G League decision,
and Cash v Embiid, who had the better game.
Hi, I'm Oisin Brown and this is the Eurostep. Today I'm joined by Killian Loftus.
Y'all.
And still not Alex Evans. He's probably freezing his ass off wherever he's off skiing.
He's looking like he's having fun, but that's not too relevant to what we're talking about.
No, we're talking basketball here. First today, ESPN brought out a list of game changers, people who've changed the landscape of basketball the most. Obviously, they put Michael Jordan on top with LeBron James second. A couple of strange decisions though, Killian.
It's a bit controversial, along with many ESPN lists. There's a lot of disagreement involved with them. You mentioned the first two. Some other names on the list: Magic Johnson at number 3, Bill Russell number 4, Wilt Chamberlain number 5, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor at number 6, Oscar Robertson, the triple-double king at number 7, Julius Erving, Larry Bird, Steph Curry completing the top 10, with Jerry West and Kobe Bryant at 11 and 12 respectively. Like you said, there's a lot of questions about the legitimacy of the list. The main one being the position of Wardell Stephen Curry II at number 10. When you look at the NBA today, he is the reason why everyone is shooting the three ball and just completely disregarding the mid-range game, which was the kind of style of the 90s, shoot mid-range, shoot layups.
Yeah, I feel like, obviously we didn't really see most of these players in their prime. We only kind of get highlights packages. Probably the only other top 10 player that we would have seen is LeBron James. But regardless, Steph Curry should be higher than 10th. He's absolutely changed basketball, even in just, the last 5 years. The game is entirely different, the way the players play offensively.
Even just 5 years ago, the NBA was still kind of revolved around the idea of you build around a big man and you form a team around that player. It was changing to the kind of not the revolutionary, but the small forward kind of thing. We had LeBron James and Kevin Durant. They were kind of bringing the NBA more towards a forward-based league, and then Steph Curry said, "Nope, this is my league now. We're shooting three-pointers," and that's how it is. He should at least be top 5, and then if you redo the list, maybe in 10 years, he'd be top 3, 2, maybe even number 1, depending on how far the NBA goes in terms of three-point shooting and stretching the floor.
Interestingly, a few months ago, Steve Kerr said that there are no longer 5 positions in the NBA, but 3. You have your point guard, your wing, and your big man. Like, that's kind of the system we'd play here as, basic basketball.
Yeah.
But do you see that happening in the NBA as well?
For some teams, you'd even see there's only 2 positions in the NBA when they play small ball: guards and wings. A lot of the times they don't play a kind of traditional center like the Warriors might have. Draymond Green, he wouldn't be playing a traditional center. He'd be playing the role of a forward who'd protect the basket. So it's like you said, even Brad Stevens, the coach of the Celtics, is moving towards the idea of positionless basketball, where he would only have the point guard, 3 wings, and a center.
Obviously, we've read out the top 12 here. What players do you think should be in that top 12, or the players that you still feel made a big impact but maybe not big enough to get in that high on the list?
There's one person and one person only. The Diesel, the Shaq Daddy, deserves to be on that list. He, just some rules the NBA had to change because of him. The league had to create Shaq-proof rims because he tore down so many baskets during his time. The league had to change the way zone defense was played because Shaq just dominated so much. And they even changed the way intentional fouls were called because of the hack a Shaq strategy, which would cripple his effectiveness on the court. I don't see how Shaq is on that list. Even say Kobe Bryant, as much as I hate to say it, did he really change the game of basketball that much compared to a guy like Shaq?
Actually, interestingly enough, people kind of just say Kobe Bryant was a poor man's Michael Jordan. Did he really, obviously Kobe was a brilliant player. You could argue he's top 3 all time. But it's hard to put him in the top 12. It's hard to see what difference he made to the game.
It's more of you see Michael Jordan at the top of the list. He kind of started the kind of 2000 trends. Into the 2000s, the league was run by shooting guards, with Kobe Bryant, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, and even kind of more point guards who still score the basketball, like Gilbert Arenas and Stephon Marbury. He started the trend of scoring guards rather than facilitators at the guard position. Kobe just kind of built upon that rather than changing the league himself. He just built upon what Michael Jordan started and made it kind of his own. He's Kobe Bryant. He's not in the shadow of Michael Jordan. He's a different player entirely.
One player that I'd like to see higher in the list is Dirk Nowitzki. I mean, he kind
on
of...
the list in general.
Just in the list, yeah. I might be wrong, but I think ESPN did have an extended version of the list.
I think it was top 100, but they just gave the 12.
They just gave the 12. And if you look at the way Dirk Nowitzki has changed the game, firstly, you know, he's the last player to carry a team to a title. I mean, you could probably argue LeBron James, but yeah, Kyrie Irving with him. That's the closest we've been since.
The difference is Kyrie Irving's an all-star.
Dirk had nobody.
Else. He only had some good role players on his team, but anyway.
The big difference he made in the game is, you know, similar enough to Steph Curry. Maybe you could accredit the two of them for the way the league has changed to all shooting, all threes. And he was the first big man to do it, and now we see a lot of teams do it, especially the ones with more small ball lineup like Golden State and Boston.
Yeah, you can even see young guys coming into the league who are kind of compared to Dirk. There's obviously Kristaps Porzingis, and then a rookie this year, Lauri Markkanen. And you see a lot of the times anyway, if there's any European 7-foot big man who can shoot the basketball, they're instantly compared to Dirk Nowitzki, no matter how they play the game. Instantly. Porzingis, in terms of how they play, is not really that similar to Dirk. Porzingis relies more on his athleticism than Dirk did, especially when he was younger. But he's still compared to Dirk because Dirk started the trend of the shooting forwards, really. You know, we saw a few of them in the past, but not as many as successful as Dirk, who was an all-star MVP, and will be in the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done.
Next, Darius Bazley, a high school player, has made a very big decision.
Very bold decision. You gotta respect
him. He's going to be the first player ever to go straight from high school to the G League. He's not going to college, and obviously now you can't go straight from high school to the NBA. You have to be 1 year removed, and he's choosing to go to the G League. He was meant to be going to college in Syracuse, I believe.
Syracuse, yeah. He decommitted.
And he decommitted to go straight into the G League. So, Killian, what are your thoughts?
You have to respect Darius Bazley. He has a big pair of LeVar balls to do this kind of thing. I really didn't expect this kind of thing. I expected some kind of high school players to take the leap to the G League or to JBA when that starts up, but not a player like Darius Bazley. He's a 5-star recruit and is top 10 in his class. Ranked 8th on 247 Sports, I believe, which is crazy. He would be, like, obviously he's one of the top high school athletes. Most of the colleges in the country were probably going after him. But he decided to go to the G League, which is absolutely shocking. He said that the G League would better prepare him for the NBA because it'd be an NBA atmosphere. He'd be playing with NBA level athletes compared to college, where it's obviously not as competitive as the NBA and not the G League, where those players are built for the NBA, while college players are more kind of technical rather than the athleticism we see in the NBA. He's taken a kind of relatively similar path, not exactly the same, to the likes of Brandon Jennings, who went to Italy back in 2008, Manu Mudiay went to China in 2015 he was drafted, and Terence Ferguson just last year was playing in Australia, I believe, Adelaide 36ers, which is one hell of a team name. But they went abroad. Darius Bazley is going to the G League, which is actually called the Gatorade League. I didn't realise that because I'm silly like that. Bazley will get less money than the 3 players I just mentioned, but like Bazley said himself, he'll be training and playing against and with NBA level athletes, which will better prepare him for the NBA the year after, or who knows.
What risks are there for, instead of going to college, going to the G League?
Some teams might not kind of respect the G League as an actual league with competition, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's a very respectable league. There's a lot of brilliant players who can make the NBA who just haven't. I think there was a stat, something like 34% of all NBA players have played in the G League at some point in their careers, which is a big stack when you think about the likes of your LeBron James, your Steph Currys wouldn't go anywhere near the G League because they just don't need to. So that's one hell of a stat. I think as well, Darius Bazley, it's a big risk, especially for basketball in general. If he succeeds, right now he's projected as a lottery pick for 2019. If he succeeds, I think he will start a bit of a revolution with more NBA, with more high school prospects going to the G League, going abroad, where they can get some money and before going into the NBA, rather than just getting a college scholarship that they don't care about. They're not about education, they're about making the NBA. And as well as improving G League, and that the JBA will gain a lot if Darius Bazley succeeds. If he fails, however, it could scare a lot of high school athletes away from going to the G League when they, rather than college, to be real.
We've discussed how it could be brilliant for the G League, could be a big, step towards making the JBA a success. But if it works out, does this maybe signal the beginning of the end for college basketball and its importance for the modern NBA?
It will take a while for something like the G League to overtake NCAA, but it could kind of provoke the start of I've said revolution so many times in this video, but a revolution where NCAA would kind of go out of fashion maybe, and players would be more inclined to go to the G League where they can get some money. Granted, it's not a lot, it's about 75 to 200k a year, but that's more than you'd ever get in college, legally anyway.
Well, we already discussed that.
Yeah.
So moving on, we've tried to shy away from this for the last couple episodes because it's just so damn depressing, but injuries are all we're talking about in the NBA right now. We've seen the likes of, early on in the season we saw Gordon Hayward and Jeremy Lin in the first couple of games out for the season, and we've seen just ever since then there's just been so many injuries. It's gone on and on and on. And now coming to, it's starting to die off maybe a little bit, maybe before the All-Star break, it's coming back again, and it's biting every team in the ass. We've seen the likes of, just over the last couple of games, Joel Embiid, Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry, all get injured. We saw a couple of weeks back Jimmy Butler, he was gone for a while. Hopefully he'll be back soon. But Killian, just talk us through some of these injuries and how they affect, firstly, their own teams, and secondly, the rest of their conference.
You mentioned Joel Embiid. He's the best player on the Sixers. They're going to miss him, but he's getting eye surgery, I believe. I don't think it's too serious of an injury. He posted on Instagram saying, I gotta trust the process, I'll be back soon. He should be back for the playoffs, which is good for the Sixers, and it could be good in general because he'll get a bit of rest before the playoffs, come back fresh to probably face the Indiana Pacers in the first round. Like you said, Kyrie Irving, knee injury. It's nothing too serious, but he will probably miss the first round, which is pretty scary if you're a Boston fan like myself. You don't want to maybe go up against the Wizards with John Wall without having an equal kind of all-star point guard to match him, even if they can't guard each other. But Steph Curry, again, should be out for the first round. It shouldn't mean too much, because this is the Warriors we're talking about. Even without Steph Curry, even though he has a massive impact on that team, they are still a team with 3 all-star players, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant and Draymond Green. And even Steve Kerr said, we don't need Steph Curry to beat any team in the NBA. Bold statement. We'll see how it pans out for them.
Some other players we've seen, Marcus Smart will probably be out for the same amount of time. That's also scary if you're a Celtics fan, missing 2 quality players as well as Gordon Hayward. Right now, they're also missing Al Horford. They're missing Jason Tatum.
No, Jason Tatum's back.
Jason Tatum's back. Okay, well that's
We got Jaylen Brown back.
Got Jalen. Okay, but even still, I mean, you have teams and they're just being obliterated by injuries, and you have to wonder: is this just unfortunate, or is there some? Can we point the finger?
I don't think you can really point the finger at anyone except maybe the basketball gods up in the clouds, but it's just unfortunate. This has been the story of the season, injuries. If there's one word you could associate with this year, it is injuries. I can't wait for the NBA all-injury teams at the end of the year. I'll be drafting them up. Of the first and second team, we'll see who makes the cut. But the injuries have kind of dampened this year rather than made it the year that I suppose we were all hoping for. A lot of good teams, you know, as you said, the Celtics, they were looking like this could be the team to finally beat the Cavs. They still might. The Raptors are looking pretty good, but without Gordon Hayward it'll be tricky, and it's looking like maybe Cleveland making the finals again this year, all because of injuries.
One player, we spoke about him in the last episode, Isaiah Thomas. He's out injured again. That hip has come back injured. He'll be out for 4 months, so basically he should be back in time for the start of next season. But does this make it even more difficult for a team to sign him?
It's more about the money. He's not going to get anywhere near as much money as he might have wanted or expected because of that scary hip injury. And he's not exactly a young player either. He's in his late 20s, I believe, maybe.
He's 29.
30. Yeah, he's 29. Injuries at that kind of age is not a great sign for what's to come when he's, say, 32. So it's not like he's going to get locked up to 4 years, 80 million or anything like that. I think if he's getting maybe 10 million a year, he needs to take that, because he's not the same player he was after the hip injury. He doesn't have really his quickness, his speed back, and it's looking like it might only get worse for him with another hip injury.
And it's a massive shame, because he's just starting to find his groove at the Lakers. Obviously it didn't work out at Cleveland. He only played 12 games, and this time last year he was on about getting paid, getting a max contract, and now you're thinking, I mean, you can't put words to it. It's just like, you can't understand how 12 months kind of changes your outlook for your whole career. But someone still will sign him. It's just
definitely. He could easily end up being the steal of free agency.
It's just a matter of him, maybe swallowing a little bit of his pride and, taking, the little bit less money. And it isn't easy, especially when you have an ego like he does, to accept less money than you feel like you're worth. But he has to do it for the sake of his career. Otherwise he'll get paid in China and we'll never hear about him again.
If he, like, as you said, swallowed his pride, if he swallowed his pride even more and took a 6-man role, he'd be absolutely deadly. If you have a scorer like him coming off the bench, granted he's not the player he was in Boston, but still, if you're getting 16 points rather pretty efficiently off the bench, that's one hell of an asset to have if you're a playoff team.
So that's injuries. When is Jimmy Butler coming back? Is he going to be back?
I think about the 5th of April, so before the playoffs.
Before the playoffs, and it's perfect timing for Minnesota, because it's looking at kind of touch and go at the bottom of the Western Conference. They have spread out a little bit now. I think you could probably only say that Minnesota are the only team who could. Minnesota, possibly Utah, could pull out of the top 8 there, make room for Denver, the Clippers. It's unlikely the Clippers will get there now. I think they're an extra game behind the Nuggets. But having Butler come back could be exactly what Minnesota need to fend off the Nuggets.
Yeah, and you had Minnesota finishing 3rd.
I know. But, in fairness, once Jimmy Butler got injured, I was like, nah.
Yeah, to be
But
fair. It was a bit of an L.
yeah, up until then I had them finishing third, but Dame's been on fire, and AD's been playing well, and they haven't had Butler. I mean, it looks like they'll make the playoffs, so it's not all, I am that stupid. So anyway, next,
Speaking of the Timberwolves.
Timberwolves, yeah. Karl-Anthony Towns had a monster game on Wednesday night. 56 points, 15 rebounds, 4 assists, and a block versus Atlanta. 6 out of 8 from the 3-point line. From downtown. Thanks to Dirk for paving the way for that. But wow, Killian.
What a stat line from Karl-Anthony Towns. I think we can credit it all to Ben Simmons with his PUBG stream the night before. He was playing with Karl-Anthony Towns, and he said, I gotta go, I'm playing the Hawks tomorrow. Ben Simmons said, nah, it's the Hawks, you don't have to go. Play one more game. He stayed, he dropped 56. What a stat line, as you said. And it is a monster game, but he's been playing really well since the aforementioned Jimmy Butler injury, averaging 26 points, 12.5 rebounds, and 1.4 blocks per game since said injury. With that game, he broke the Timberwolves points record, points in a single game, previously held by Mo Williams, of all people, who dropped 52 back in 2015. What a game. It's a nice record for Karl-Anthony Towns to have. He's over guys like Kevin Garnett, legends like Mo Williams.
Legend, Mo Williams.
Paving his way to being a Timberwolves legend down the line.
Yeah, so with the Timberwolves, there was the fear that they could miss out on the playoffs again. They're already the franchise with the longest spell without playoff basketball, and kind of thought when they got Jimmy Butler, this is going to be their year. And Jesus, they're fairly close to missing out again, but it looks like they will get there. They'll make it over the line. But I suppose the debate on social media is Karl-Anthony Towns' game against Atlanta or Joel Embiid's game against the Lakers back in November. I mean, these are two players that we've kind of compared a lot as the brightest young big men in the league, along with Nikola Jokic, the Joker. Yeah, so Killian, just firstly talk us through Embiid's game against the Lakers back in November, and which one do you think you'd rather have?
Joel Embiid, what a stat line. 46 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists and 7 blocks against the Lakers back in November. He was kind of, LeVar Ball was talking trash, and he said, I'm going to show you what I can do. And he absolutely annihilated the Lakers. Which one's better? They are both brilliant games. I'd just like to mention that first. Well, I saw a lot of people on social media saying 56 is greater than 46. So, obviously, Cat had the better game. There's more to it than that. There's more to it. If you look at points responsible for, which is points and assists, take this with a grain of salt because 3-pointers can factor into this, but Embiid had roughly 60 points responsible for, Towns 64, so close enough, especially when you compare that they're 10 points difference. But one thing as well is Joel Embiid, at least by the stat line, played defense. Karl-Anthony Towns, he's an offensive superstar, but one thing he's gotten a lot of kind of stick for in his career, especially nowadays, is that he doesn't play much defense. Especially considering in Kentucky, he was a monster of a defender, and that was one of his main assets going into the draft. And now he's not really showing it as much. In that game, Joel Embiid played defense with 7 blocks, and he's done it all year long. One of the top candidates for Defensive Player of the Year. Whether or not he'll get it, Paul George has been amazing. But I definitely take the Embiid game over the Towns game. There was more of a kind of storyline to it with the kind of Lonzo Ball, Joel Embiid rivalry, and the stat line's better than what Towns had. Besides, Lakers are a better team than the Hawks as well.
Yeah. For me, the big difference is 1 block and 7 blocks.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, there's a 10-point difference there, but I mean
7 blocks, that's 14 points they could have gotten.
14.
6, cause...
And then when you consider there's only 4 points in the difference, points responsible for, don't get me wrong, Karl-Anthony Towns played a monster game, But I think Embiid's game is better. Not only, I suppose Karl-Anthony Towns is probably going to have the ball in his hands a little bit more with regards to shooting. He has less options to pass it to, especially with Butler out injured. But when you look at Embiid, that Philly team, there's good players around him. Whereas, Towns, he has Wiggins and,
Jeff Teague. Not an all-star.
Taj Gibson, yeah. They're nothing special.
Take JJ Redick over both of them.
Absolutely. Then you have Covington, Zaric. They've a solid team.
I think Fultz was gone by then.
Fultz was gone. But yeah, look, it's I think it's just a dead burner debate because it's that time of the season. I think we're just waiting for the playoffs.
It's just a bit of education rather than a debate.
You've been educated, you've been schooled. Right, so I suppose that's about it for this week. We'll be back on Wednesday, I believe. So check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Like and subscribe on YouTube. We are Team Eurostep on all of the above. We're also Team Eurostep on Patreon. If you enjoy our content, please support us. As little as €1 helps, as cheesy as that sounds at this point. But I forgot to credit CRC in the last episode, so thanks to them for hooking us up for the last episode. We aren't recording in CRC today because it's Good Friday and the studio's closed. So
my bedroom.
if you can hear sound quality difference, it's coming from just recording off the voice memo app on my phone. So apologies if it sounds like trash. I know ESPN has been sounding like trash too, so maybe it's kind of a recurring theme for this episode. But I think that's about it for this week. So goodbye from Killian, and goodbye from Alex in colder climes, and goodbye from me until next time.